Today is Monday, May 4th, 2026, and today is Star Wars Day, which started as a simple play on words, May the 4th be with you, and somehow turned into something much bigger. Welcome to Wait That's Random, This Day in History. I'm your host, C.L. Burns, voice actor, audiobook narrator, and your guide through the odd and unexpected corners of history. Let's dive in. On May 4th, 1904, construction officially began on the Panama Canal. The idea was straightforward: connect the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. But actually doing it meant cutting through about 50 miles of land, jungle, and rock. Before the canal, ships had to travel nearly 8,000 extra miles around South America. So the need was clear. The execution wasn't. Because this wasn't just construction. It was constant resistance from the environment. Heavy rain turned the ground unstable. Landslides could undo weeks of progress overnight. And disease was a major factor. Malaria and yellow fever spread quickly through the workforce. At one point, thousands of workers had died. What's easy to miss is that the turning point didn't come from machinery alone. It came from understanding the conditions. Efforts to control mosquito populations reduced disease. New excavation systems improved efficiency. And gradually, progress started to hold. Because building something at that scale isn't just about the plan. It's about adapting when the plan doesn't work. And sometimes, what changes everything isn't a large obstacle. It's something much smaller. Today in 1932, Al Capone entered federal prison. At the time, he was one of the most recognizable figures in organized crime, connected to bootlegging, violence, and influence across Chicago. So when he was finally convicted, it seemed like a major turning point. But the reason behind it was where things shift. Because he wasn't convicted for those larger crimes. He was convicted for tax evasion, not violence, not organized crime operations, paperwork, financial records. Something far less dramatic, but easier to prove. He was later sent to Alcatraz, a prison designed to limit communication and influence. And over time, the control he once had started to fade. His health declined, and the image people associated with him began to change. What stands out here isn't just the outcome, it's how indirect the path was. Because sometimes something that seems untouchable is undone by something simple. And sometimes something small doesn't stay contained. Today in 2002, Spider-Man set a new standard for opening weekend box office performance. It brought in over $100 million in just a few days, something no film had done before. At the time, the number carried weight because it signaled a shift. Superhero films weren't just occasional successes anymore. They were becoming central to the industry. What's interesting is how quickly that momentum built. Studios began investing more heavily. Budgets increased. Stories expanded into larger connected narratives. And over time, that one result became part of a much bigger pattern. Because sometimes a single outcome doesn't just stand on its own. It points toward what's coming next. And while some things grow through scale or momentum, others stand out through consistency. Audrey Hepburn was born on May 4th, 1929. She became one of the most recognizable actresses of her time, known for films like Roman Holiday and Breakfast at Tiffany's. But her story started much earlier. During World War II, she lived in the Netherlands, where she experienced food shortages and hardship firsthand. That period shaped much of what came later, because after her acting career, she shifted her focus toward humanitarian work. As a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, she traveled to regions affected by famine and conflict, not for appearances, but for direct involvement. What stays with people isn't just her work on screen. It's the way her life carried forward into something more. Because sometimes what defines someone isn't just what they achieve. It's what they choose to do after. At first, these moments don't seem connected, but they start to line up. A massive project only works because people adjust to reality. A powerful figure is brought down through something indirect. and a single result opens the door for something much larger. Different situations, but each one shows how outcomes don't always follow the expected path. Anyway, that was a bit of what came together while working through May 4th. We'll see what the next day has waiting. If you'd like to hear more of my work or explore the books and projects I've been a part of, you can find it all at waitthat'srandom.com. I'm C.L. Burns, and I appreciate you stopping by. I'll see you tomorrow.